Hello, and welcome back. Hard to believe we're already on part 7 of this series. Overall, this is a great horror anthology, but there's a limited number of episodes. It's a great show with some really good stories. I just hope that AMC comes to their senses and renews the show for another season. But before we get started, I want to let you know that I have a Patreon page where I have all my videos, excluding my gaming content, all ad-free. If you're at all interested in that, I'll put a link in the description down below. But with all that out of the way, let's get into some spooky stories. Our first story is titled Pipe Screams from Season 2, Episode 4, originally airing on April 22nd, 2021. Our story starts off with multiple calls from tenants being left on the answering machine of a slumlord named Victoria Smoot, who relents to the constant pressure and calls Linus Carruthers, a local plumber. The two enter the apartment's basement. All the while, Smoot continues to spit venom and vigor about her tenants, calling them animals. Linus takes one look at the pipes and says that they're lead, meaning that they are old, shot, and most importantly illegal, as they are a health hazard, as lead is toxic. Linus says he can't repair them, but is willing to work out a deal to have them replaced. Smoot goes on the warpath, telling Linus that she didn't hire his company because it was at the top of its game. She hired him to do the band-aid work on the pipes that nobody else would. Linus says that the shoddy work was done in the past by his brother, who has since passed away. He has spent the last few years rebuilding the company's reputation. Smoot continues to point and threaten, saying that if he doesn't fix the current pipes and tries to notify health and safety on her, she will file a complaint with the city and have his business license revoked. Linus, having spent his last dime trying to build back the family business, can't afford to fight it out legally with her, so he reluctantly agrees. With the final threat whispered, she leaves Linus to do the work. He flips her the bird as she walks off, calling her a Karen. He gets to work inspecting a hole in one of the larger pipes. He hears something scurrying around, as if it's made the pipes its home. Linus bangs on the pipes with a wrench to hear it move again. The creature comes to the hole to look at Linus face to face, but it's too dark. Linus is unable to see it clearly. It retreats back into the pipes, and the cat in the basement follows the sound and notices the drain creature drop into a nearby washer. He crawls out and follows the cat. Linus hears the cat hiss, and it makes him stumble and fall. He turns his light, expecting to see the cat, but all he finds is a bloody collar and a trail of blood leading back into the washer. The sudden gruesome sight makes him yell out in fear. Linus grabs his tools, saying that he doesn't need whatever kind of crazy thing this is in his life. He says that Smoot is a racist, and she can find a different plumber. But just as Linus is going to leave, he hears the sounds of children playing upstairs, and it makes him quickly reconsider. He reluctantly continues to work, tracing a problem to the unit of Janet, a beautiful and caring single mother. She shows Linus to the bathroom and tells him stories about what the other residents have seen lurking in the pipes. A man down the hall said something furry touched his foot in the shower. She says that her daughter heard a weird chirping. Janet even admits to finding something furry in the toilet, only for it to disappear down the drain once the lid was opened. Linus breaks the news to her that it's likely rats, and Janet is visibly grossed out. He says that they are attracted to places like this. They move in and rapidly grow in numbers and become very vicious when confronted. Janet says that she has to leave to go pick up her daughter, and that she will leave him to fix the issue. Linus gives a joking salute with the wrench as she leaves. As soon as the front door closes, Linus hears squeaking and chattering coming from the drain and pipes. He follows the sounds with his light, seeing an opportunity to capture what he still thinks is a rat. He thinks he hears it in the walls, but it sneaks in behind him, taking refuge in the cabinet under the sink. Linus goes in for the capture, but notices the space is empty, all except for a small hole in the pipes under the sink. He goes to touch it, but a hairy and slimy mass attaches itself to his hand. He screams in terror as it wiggles and writhes. Tendrils of hair erupt from the mass and wrap themselves around his arm. He tries hitting the creature, smashing it against the refrigerator, even breaking a plate on it, but the creature refuses to let go. He has to slam it into a door and use the edges to scrape the creature off and set his hand free. He tumbles back, out of breath and shocked at what just happened. He looks down at his hand to assess the damage, only to see that the monster has partly degloved the top part of his hand. The gruesome sight makes him gasp, but he looks over at the sink to see the creature chewing on the skin from his hand. It leaps off the counter and lunges for him. Linus stabs it with a plastic PVC pipe, but the creature crawls up the pipe and latches itself to Linus's face. He struggles and pulls, eventually freeing himself, tossing the creature onto a nearby wall as he gasps for breath. He turns around to see the furry and slimy mass rear its head for another attack. Just before it reaches him, Janet slams a bucket over top of the creature. She asks Linus what it is, but Linus just says it's a clog. Janet asks about the rats, and Linus darkly jokes that there are no rats, and that whatever that creature is would have likely eaten any rat. The creature continues to wiggle and push against the bucket as they talk. Linus goes to get his phone. Janet asks who he's calling. He says that he doesn't know, maybe animal control or the CDC. Janet smiles and says that she has a better idea. Linus calls Smoot, telling her that there's a problem that she needs to come take a look at. She complains, but agrees to show up. She walks through the darkness of the basement, talking shit and slurring her words, as she takes another drink from the cocktail in her hand. She flicks on the basement light, only to find all the residents of the building standing in the basement looking at her, all wielding weapons and grim expressions of disgust and anger. Still thinking she's in control, she says that there will be no unionizing in her building, that there's only one woman in charge as she points at herself. She grows angry when she sees that the pipe still has a hole in it. She calls out to the plumber, who appears from the darkness. She asks why he called her down here and why he said he found the problem but didn't fix it yet. Linus says he did find the problem, and Janet cuts in saying that the problem is Smoot. All the residents begin to step towards her, and Smoot tries to smooth things over, offering half-hearted apologies and discounts on rent for the next few months. But the residents keep closing in. She keeps stepping back until her foot is over a grate in the floor. A slimy, hairy tendril wraps itself around her brand-name suit pants and yanks her violently into the hole. Her legs buckle near her head in a way reminiscent of Deke the Jock from the Creepshow 2 segment, The Raft. She begs and pleads with the residents to save her, but they all look on with stone faces as the creature continues to pull her deeper. Before the creature pulls her fully into the deep, dark hole, the residents look on as she disappears from sight. Later, Janet's daughter returns with a crayon drawing of her and the drain creature, and a small bowl of food with the name Fluffy on it. It becomes clear that the residents chose the monster in their drain over the monster who owned the building, as the screen fades to black. When it comes to pipe screams, this story puts a grotesque horror twist on something most of us dread: plumbing issues. The episode stars Eric Edelstein as the beleaguered Linus. Edelstein has built his career on both comedic and gritty roles. You might recognize him as Grizz on We Bare Bears, as well as his role in Twin Peaks. His typically affable screen presence adds an ironic contrast to the increasingly nasty horrors he encounters down in the drains. Barbara Crampton, meanwhile, plays the villainous landlord who employs him, a perfect fit for this genre given her horror legacy in Reanimator. Behind the scenes, the creature effects and pipe screams are notable for leaning into practical effects and creature design that evoke the pulpy horror of Creepshow's comic book roots. While CGI assists in some moments, the gross texture, goo, and physicality make the monster feel tactile and disturbingly alive, a deliberate choice to capture that old-school horror sensibility. Tonally, the story is a blend of social commentary and campy horror, poking fun at clueless landlords and environmental neglect before delivering the dark twist that Creepshow is known for. Overall, the episode is the perfect mix of tension, sweet moments, and a peppering of comedic bits. However, when it first aired, it received mixed reactions. But after the later episodes in the series began to fall short, it was later seen as one of the more entertaining episodes in the short-running series, and in my opinion, well worth the watch. Our second story is ominously titled Pesticide from Season 2, Episode 2, originally airing on April 8th, 2021. Our story starts off with an overly enthusiastic exterminator named Harlan King, who takes extra joy in finishing up a job outside the office of Dr. Brenda Lanchester. Harlan barges in the middle of one of Brenda's sessions to gleefully exclaim that his job is complete, listing off all the types of bugs, and even a few birds, that he exterminated. Brenda, though visibly frustrated at Harlan's interruption, remains professional and asks him to wait outside. But Harlan, lacking any basic social interaction skills, pushes for immediate payment. Knowing the type of person she's dealing with, Brenda reluctantly relents and writes Harlan a check on the spot. Harlan, thinking she might be a repeat customer, offers her a card upon the completion of their business. Brenda scowls and asks why she would want to use him again. Harlan makes a joke about being the king of exterminators, trying to draw attention to his name tag, but the intended pun falls flat as Brenda closes the door in Harlan's face. But he still manages to flick his card into the room before the door closes. Harlan goes out to his work truck, cursing the doctor's name under his breath. Here it's revealed that Harlan has a sleazy business practice to ensure repeat customers. He slowly opens the door to the office so as not to make any sound, then dumps multiple roaches on the floor, slowly giggling and joking to himself. Later that day, while on his way to meet a new client, Harlan begins to have trouble with his van. It gurgles and sputters, but Harlan coaxes it like a living being, trying to sweet-talk the work truck into continuing to function. He pulls up to the abandoned-looking factory as his van stalls to a stop. He exits with a grunt, complaining about the building lacking numbers and trying to figure out which place he's meant to go into. He stumbles around the outsides of the buildings, yelling out his business slogan as he hopes someone will come out to meet him. He enters a seemingly abandoned factory and belts out another half-assed rhyme. He threatens to leave when suddenly a mysterious man named Murdoch appears and greets him. The two have a small back and forth, talking about Harlan's expertise. Murdoch attempts to sweet-talk Harlan before it's even revealed what extermination needs to be done, offering him a new work truck. Harlan, trying to play coy, says that the one he has is fine while looking on with skepticism. Murdoch jokes that he could hear his backfiring truck coming from a mile away. Harlan looks slightly offended, but Murdoch continues, telling Harlan about his plans to turn the entire site into luxury condos, telling him that if Harlan's work is to his satisfaction, there will be plenty more work for him, full-time, very high-paying work. Harlan giggles and jokes that Murdoch doesn't need to twist his arm so hard. The two walk into a back room as Murdoch says it's a very special type of vermin. Harlan looks out the window to see an encampment of homeless people. He smirks and says that his problem is easy. All the homeless people are leading to him having a rat problem. Harlan smiles and confirms that he has the perfect chemical cocktail for the rats. Murdoch stops him, saying that he didn't say anything about rats. He continues to say that his pests are the people themselves. He says he's tried every conventional and legal way of attempting to get rid of the encampment, but they just continue to return, and in greater and greater numbers. Harlan throws his arms up and says that he doesn't do murder for hire. Murdoch says that on the contrary, that's exactly what Harlan does. Harlan exclaims that he kills bugs and pests, not human beings, yelling that this isn't the same thing. Murdoch says of course it is, before opening a briefcase filled with stacks of money, asking Harlan to look before he leaps. Harlan scratches his head and excitedly says that it is a lot of money. Murdoch says that Harlan is the king of exterminators, isn't he? Before handing over the briefcase and exclaiming, "All hail the king!" with a dark and ghoulish grin on his face. Harlan reluctantly relents and agrees to clear out the encampment, sure that he can clear them out without resorting to killing anyone. Later that night, Harlan sneaks into the encampment while everyone's asleep. He's about to pour a vial of neon green fluid into the camp stew pot, but after looking around at all the people, Harlan thinks twice and says that it isn't worth it. Just then, he's jump scared by a man in the camp and drops the whole vial into the stew pot. The homeless man pulls out a knife and tries to attack Harlan. In the struggle, the knife-wielding man falls on top of Harlan, still trying to stab him. Harlan grabs another vial of his neon green pesticide and smashes it into the man's face. The homeless man falls back and begins to seize and foam at the mouth. Harlan looks on in shock. He looks around the area and notices that due to the struggle, Everyone at the encampment is now awake and watching him. He scrambles to grab his briefcase of money before running away. We see the neon green pesticide bubbling in the pot of stew as he flees. Later that night, Harlan lies in his apartment with a bundle of money in his hand as he breathes heavily and tries to forget about what just happened. He eventually falls asleep and has a nightmare of Murdoch coming into his apartment, stealing the money back and spraying him with the same pesticide. He coughs and chokes before jolting upright in bed. He looks over and sees his money is still there. He looks down to see what looks like a giant tail sliding across his legs. He leans over the edge of his bed and drops a bundle of cash. When he goes to pick it up, a gigantic rat bites down on his hand and attacks him in bed. He jolts up again, this time to the morning sun peeking in through his window. He returns to the factory to see police and the coroner laying out the dead in body bags. Harlan comments to himself that they all must have eaten the entire pot of stew. He tries to call Murdoch, but the call goes to voicemail. Harlan continues treating different clients. He's haunted by hallucinations of a giant mosquito knocking him to the ground and driving its long blade-like proboscis that punctures his chest and begins sucking his blood. Harlan comes to, lying on his back, smacking his chest and breathing heavily. At night, he returns home, and as he lies in bed, he continues the hallucinations and infestation of bugs in his apartment, as the guilt of what he's done continues to eat away at him. The next day, Harlan begins to nod off while driving due to his lack of sleep. He tries calling Murdoch again, only to find the phone number has been completely disconnected. After a vivid hallucination of a giant spider biting his neck and dissolving half of his face, and being attacked by the same homeless man he used the pesticide on, he decides to return to Dr. Brenda in the hopes of having the visions treated with therapy. He is woken up by the good doctor after stumbling in and passing out in her waiting area. Brenda, seeing that Harlan is injured and out of it, says that she called an ambulance. Harlan asks her not to throw shallow breaths as he begs and pleads with her to help him talk out his problems. Brenda says that he needs medical attention. Harlan begins to cry and confess that he's done something really bad and that he needs her help. Brenda reluctantly relents and sits down across from him, ready to hear him out. He begins blabbering incoherently, half confessing to something horrible without giving details. Harlan says that he took a job from someone he shouldn't have. Brenda asks who, and Harlan says the devil while nervously laughing. He tells her the truth of what he did, then stands up and begins spraying her in the face with pesticide as she screams out in pain. He jolts awake during their session, having momentarily drifted off, and Brenda is in the middle of talking about how guilt can cause all types of nasty side effects. Harlan looks around, unsure what is real and what's a dream. Harlan drifts off to sleep again, this time dreaming that he's tiny, as if he himself has become a bug. Brenda returns to see what she thinks is a bug on the sofa, and she uses a rolled-up magazine to repeatedly smash the bug-sized Harlan until he's nothing more than a bloody smear on a page. There's a knock at the door, and Brenda goes to greet a very unexpected visitor.
Hello, Doctor. Bug problem.
When it comes to pesticide, this story offers a twisted moral tale about an exterminator whose self-interest and arrogance lead him into a nightmare far worse than any infestation. The segment stars Josh McDermott as Harlan King, best known for playing Eugene in The Walking Dead. McDermott's exaggerated portrayal of Harlan provides a hilarious yet unsettling look at a character whose facade of toughness gradually crumbles as he faces the consequences of his moral choices. The story also features legendary Keith David in the role of Murdoch, a charismatic but unsettling employer who lures Harlan into this morally dubious job. David's deep, commanding screen presence, owned through decades of performances in horror films, adds an eerie authority to the story's complex power dynamics. It's well worth noting that this character bears a striking resemblance to another character Keith David played in the Tales from the Hood franchise of the devilish Mr. Sims, taking over the role from another legend, Clarence Williams III. The story also stars Ashley Lawrence, a horror icon from the Hellraiser franchise, as Brenda, adding another level of horror legacy to the star-studded segment. Behind the scenes, Pesticide was masterfully directed by Greg Nicotero, the show's executive producer and an established horror effects maestro. Overall, this is a fun episode that leaves the ending open to viewer interpretation. Was the ending another nightmare, or a gruesome yet fitting end to a bargain with the devil? I want to give a special shout out to our channel members, and a big thank you to everyone who takes the time to watch these videos. Take care, stay safe, and we'll catch you in the next one.